In the heart of southeastern Nigeria, cradled by thick palm forests and red clay paths, there lies a forgotten village called Ogbeke, a place where the air still hums with the songs of ancestors and the moon casts shadows that dance with secrets. In Ogbeke, stories are not just told, they are lived, feared, and obeyed. And among all the stories passed down under moonlit gatherings, none is whispered more carefully than that of Obinna, the boy who wore the cow's head. It began in the season of Onwasato, the eighth moon, when the land is ripe with yam and the ancestors are said to return to smoke, song, and sacrifice. This was the time of the Ibe Ugo festival, an ancient rite where a chosen boy from the village would slaughter the sacred cow and wear its head to commune with the spirits. It was not a role for the weak-hearted, it was for the one marked by the ancestors themselves. That year, the oracle spoke one name, Obinna, son of Nadi, the palm wine tapper. He was only 18, slender, with kind eyes and a heart too gentle for blood. But in Ogbeke, prophecy was law, and so the village gathered at the Oku shrine, where the air smelled of camwood, charcoal, and old fear. Obinna knelt before the elders, bare-chested, his skin dusted with white chalk. His mother wept quietly behind the drums, her arms wrapped in red cloth. His father said nothing, only handed him the ancestral knife, curved like a crescent moon and older than the village itself. The head must never face the sky after the cut, said the high priest. And when you wear it, you must not look into a mirror or speak until the morning cock crows. Do you understand? Obinna nodded. But no child ever truly understands the weight of tradition. Not until it's strapped to your soul like a burden you cannot drop. The cow was not ordinary. Her name was Erina. She was white with black patches like ancestral tattoos. She had been raised from birth for this very day. Some said she understood prayers. Some said she was the spirit of a woman who once defied the gods. Obinna approached her with trembling hands. Erina did not resist. Her large eyes met his, and something passed between them. Was it fear or forgiveness? The blade struck, the earth drank, and the village cheered. The cow's head, still warm, was lifted and crowned upon Obinna. The horns curved like a warrior's arms. Blood dripped down his face, into his eyes, over his lips. Silence fell, drums faded, time stopped. The boy was now the mask. The mask was now the boy. That night, Obinna sat by the fire alone. His breathing was shallow. The cow's head, meant to come off after dusk, felt glued to his skin. He tried to pull it off. It wouldn't budge. He was afraid to speak. The rule echoed in his ears, do not utter a word until sunrise. But it was not the silence that broke him. It was a mirror. Some foolish child had dropped a broken shard near the firewood stack. And in a moment of panic, Obinna saw his reflection. Only, it wasn't his. The eyes staring back were not those of a 13-year-old boy. They were wild, bloodshot. The face beneath the cow's head was moving, twitching, as if something beneath the flesh wanted to come out. He screamed, but no sound came, just the low grunt of a beast. Morning did not bring peace. The mask was still there. His parents rushed to the shrine. The high priest fainted. Old women crossed themselves with bitter choler and threw salt into the wind. Remove it, they cried. But the cow's head would not come off. It had fused with Obinna, as if his very soul had been battered in the night. Some said he had been cursed. Others whispered that the boy had broken the ancient rule. But his mother, her eyes sunken from my sleeplessness, said something different. My son was not chosen. He was offered. In the weeks that followed, strange things happened. Animals refused to enter the village. The yam barn caught fire without cause. Children began having nightmares of a horned figure watching them from the trees, and Obinna, he stopped eating. He stopped sleeping. Sometimes the sound of hooves echoed in the clay compound at night. His voice, when it came, was not human. That's when the elders called the Dibia of Umweke, a traveling spirit seer with scarred eyes and a leopard's tooth on his belt. He walked into Obinna's hut, spat on the ground, and said only one thing. This boy wears more than a mask. He wears a memory, one the ancestors tried to bury. Obinna's father fell to his knees. The Dibia turned to the shrine. There is a secret buried beneath your village, and the boy is its vessel. That night, the villagers gathered once more. Obinna sat at the center, unmoving, the cow's head still fused to his flesh. The fire burned high. The drums returned, and then he stood up. He raised his hand, and he spoke, but it was not his voice. It was a woman's. You killed me beneath the Iroko tree. You silenced me with a knife, but there are stories that twist through the roots of a people, deeper than yam vines, darker than the shadows of the thickest forest. In Ogbeke, those stories are not told. They are breathed. And after Obinna wore the cow's head, Ogbeke itself stopped breathing. The village fell into silence, the kind that even crickets respect. The morning after the possession, the elders locked themselves in the Oku shrine, chanting until their throats cracked. The high priest would not eat. His staff lay abandoned in the dust. And Obinna, he was not Obinna anymore. They called it the Maging. The sacred cow's spirit, Erina, was never just an animal. According to the Dibia of Umwek, she was the vessel of Ifeoma the Forgotten, a woman wrongfully killed generations ago by the founding elders of Ogbeke. Her spirit had been locked beneath the Iroko tree and silenced through blood rituals. But now, through Obinna, she had found a voice again, and she was angry. Obinna's eyes were never the same. When he blinked, they flashed white like lightning behind the clouds. His voice shifted between boyhood and an ancient, sorrowful woman. He walked as though he carried time on his back. His body still aching, but his presence, a storm waiting to break. Each morning, villagers left offerings outside his compound, kola nuts, palm oil, smoked fish, hoping to appease what lived inside him. But on the seventh night, after the Maging, the yam barn bled. Not burned, not crumbled, bled red liquid oozed from the wooden walls. Chickens shrieked until they dropped dead, and in the center of the barn door, a message appeared, scratched in a language no one had seen in decades. Undo the silence, or the soil will remember its blood. A council of the brave was formed. Obinna's father, Nadi, was among them, though age had bent his back. The Dibia, the high priest, and 3 elders journeyed with Obinna to the forbidden forest beyond the western ridge. That place had been off limits since the time of their great-grandfathers, when a woman was buried alive beneath the Iroko tree for crimes no one dared to name. But Obinna led the way, barefoot, the cracked cow skull still fused like armor around his head. He walked without fear, as though he had walked the path before. The forest greeted them not with sounds, but silence. The birds fled. The wind did not stir the leaves. Even time seemed unsure. At the base of the Iroko tree, twisted and gnarled like a giant's knuckles, Obinna began to weep, but the tears were not his. I waited, he whispered in that voice again, the woman's voice. I waited under your roots. I screamed through your soil, and you fed on my silence. The Dibia stepped forward, burning incense in a horn carved with human teeth. Spirit of the wronged, he called, reveal your truth. And then the earth opened. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a releasing. A section of the ground cracked open like lips parting in a forgotten song. Inside was a hollow chamber. Bones lined the walls, too many for one person. Carvings marked the walls, names, symbols, warnings. At the center, a black bowl filled with ashes. Obinna walked in and placed his hand over the bowl. The ashes rose, swelling around him. From the bowl, a voice spoke, no longer Obinna, no longer Ifeoma, but something deeper. You buried a woman, who knew your crimes. You made her a beast to guard your lies. You fed her to tradition, but now the beast wears your future. The elders trembled. The high priest collapsed, mumbling an old confession. We silenced her. We silenced Ifioma to protect the shrine. She uncovered the lie. There was no spirit guiding the Ibe Ogwu. It was our own power we fed, and the truth unraveled like old cloth. The festival was a farce. The cow never chose anyone. The oracle was fed visions with herbs. The real purpose? To bind any who questioned the elders' authority, just like Ifioma, the woman who had dared to challenge the priests. The spirit spoke again. Undo the silence, or blood shall return. The Dibia turned to Nadi. Your son is the bridge. If we don't break the chain, he will be lost, not just possessed, but devoured. A cleansing was needed, but not the one the elders hoped for. Truth must be spoken before the village. The cow mask must be removed under full moon in front of the sacred mirror, and Ifeoma's name must be restored. But when they returned to the village, something had changed. Obinna was no longer walking. He floated inches above the ground. Children cried at the sight. Fires dimmed in his presence. Even the goats refused to bleat. The cow's skull now pulsed like it had veins. And the worst, Obinna began to forget his own name. His mother clutched him, sobbing. My son, my son, he stared at her with hollow eyes. I am not your son. I am the silence that fed your peace. The moon approached, and the village prepared for the final ritual. But not all elders wanted the truth revealed. On the eve of the full moon, as the sacred mirror was prepared, a group of masked men broke into the Oku shrine. They carried fire and old vengeance. They would rather destroy the boy and the spirit than let the truth unearth their buried crimes. But as they lit the fire, Obinna appeared. He was no longer just a boy. He was no longer just a mask. He had become something else. His voice echoed through the trees. You feared her when she was flesh. Now face her when she is fire. And the shrine walls split open. Flames danced but did not burn. Inside the fire stood Ifeoma, radiant and terrible, draped in ash and justice. The masked men dropped to their knees. Obinna walked to the sacred mirror, guided by her. The village gathered, breath held. The Dibia stepped forward and raised his staff. Ifeoma, the truth speaker, we call your name with honor. Let the lies die tonight. With one touch, the cow's head fell from Obinna's face. The light that burst from him was not fire, but memory. Visions of Ifeoma's last moments, her courage, her betrayal. The truth washed over the crowd like a river cutting through drought. Obinna collapsed into his mother's arms. This time when he looked at her, he smiled. I am home. The spirit of Ifeoma rose one last time. Her face softened. She turned to the Iroko tree and vanished into wind. That night, Ogbeke sang not of tradition, but of truth. And the cow's skull was buried, not in the shrine, but beneath the village square, with a plaque that read, to those who speak when silence is demanded, this ground remembers you.